you sit in an aeroplane and say the rest of your coins, give it to us. That's the way we raise funds. So there's nobody sitting anywhere raising funds for us. So we misuse our money and we say Enkwalasika. It's a adage we use in my office. Enkwalasika. Do you understand? So I just want you to understand where we source our money from. We are in over 190 countries and territories. We advocate for measures to give children the best start in life. So it's from 0 to adolescence. So we also cater for adolescents. We promote basic education and gender equality. A lot of times I've had calls to say, can you do this for us? Can you do this? But we can only do this much. And so we strategize so that we can reach out as much as possible. HIV, AIDS, and children is important to us. Child protection is important to us. Policy advocacy and partnerships are important to us. So like Cynthia was saying, we reach out to partners. But then again, we are in countries at the behest, at the host country's behest. So we don't do anything without the government of Ghana. Then in Ghana, this is how we work. What I gave you before is a global outlook. So in Ghana specific, these are the areas in which we work. In education, some of the things we have done is complementary based education. We are working to make all schools child friendly, and the most difficult one is the one with the corporal punishment one. That one, when we talk about it, people think that there's something wrong with that. It's not Ghanaian to be speaking like that, but it's because we haven't given people alternatives, and those alternatives are usually quite difficult to deal with. So we are interested in children with disabilities as well. So that girl over there is blind. She's never been to school until she was 12. She's a twin. The other twin is not. You know, what I want to say is that children with disabilities are also very important to us. Health and nutrition, for this year, our focus is on the newborn care. More babies die before they are 30 days old. 30 days old. Those are critical moments in a child's life. And we think that through science we've discovered that if we are able to nip that in the bud, then a lot more children will thrive. Child protection, we want to strengthen our systems such that when a child is a child, he doesn't end up in an adult prison. Because there are a lot of those. There are Bossman institutes, but there are a lot of babies in prisons, etc. So we want to strengthen our systems. So that's our focus for this country system. Social policy and equity. Because of our mouths, we were able to repurpose the fuel subsidy into LEAP, because we went and asked the government, do you know what you are going to do with the subsidies that you have saved? We think that there are many more poor people you can support, and because of that it was increased. The LEAP was trebled. So we advocate for these things. That's what our social policy and equity section does. Water and sanitation. In Ghana, more than 15 million people defecate in the open. Do you care about that? Fantastic. Open defecation. Go behind the Christian Ball Castle. It's a free range behind the castle. And yet when we go into communities like Baddoo in the northern region, it is sanitized. They dig a pit and they shit inside. But in Accra, it is almost important. It's important, or it's prestigious to do it in the open. So we work in all these areas closely with the government of Ghana. This is just a peek into the kind of things that we do in Ghana. So that's Karen, and she's deaf. She's 4 years old, and that's Karen with her mother. We work in the northern region, upper west region, upper east region, eastern region, central region, western region, and Volta region. We do something called convergence. So when we're in the northern regions, we find that it's not only child survival that is there, but water and sanitation is there, child protection is there, education is there. We want to do it holistically. So you find us here because our science, we are guided by science. Guided by science in the sense that we use science to determine where the need is most. So we use the multiple indicator cluster sample. Have you ever heard of the mix? Any of you heard of the mix? It's a book that all of you need, because it will tell you what the situation of the child is in Ghana. And then we use the demographic health survey to determine what we should do. So how? We work with like-minded organizations, support government, and we look for opportunities with you where we can advocate for the rights of children to be realized. So how can you help me?
Well, specifically on migration and development issues, and as a member of the UN Communication Group, I'm representing my organization. And like Cynthia said, it's International Organization for Migration. Sometimes you see it as IOM, OIM, well, depending on. I mean, the OIM is the French. Yeah. Okay. So this organization actually has been around since 1951, and it started in Eastern Europe, actually to help resettle people after the World War. And our mission is to make sure that migration is actually organized in humane and orderly manner. Humane and orderly manner means that we need to amplify the benefits of migration and reduce the costs. If I say to reduce the cost, I'm trying to say the adversity that migrants face. So we tend to make sure that when someone is migrating, the migration or the journey becomes beneficial to the migrant himself or herself. It becomes beneficial to the community that he is living or she is living. It becomes beneficial to even the transit country, and it also becomes beneficial to the destination country. So that's what we're trying to say, that IOM is committed to a principle that humane and orderly migration benefits migrants and the society. And we've been, sometimes people describe us as NGO. We are not an NGO. We are IGO. IGO means we are intergovernmental organization. And here in Ghana, we've signed cooperative agreement with the government of Ghana to assist the government in migration management issues. We are in over 151 states across the world with about 7,800 staff members. And our headquarters is actually in Geneva, but we have different offices all over the world. Well, let me start here. We've been around since 1987. And we've been around since 1987, and then we have offices. Projects we have it all over Ghana, but we have offices located also in Accra here, Brong-Ahafo region, specifically Kranza, Sunyani, and then the western region we have office in Takoradi, and the northern region Tamale, doing different projects. I will let you know what the projects are. We have about 60 staff members within the organization here in Ghana. So, delivering as one, as you've heard the concept, DAO, we are part of the UN system in Ghana here, and we also participate in the UNDP. I'm sure UNDP will talk about UNDP in a way. And our major partners have been the ministries and then department agencies who are actually have some kind of interface with migration management issues. But basically, we're working with MARI, Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Ministry of Interior, Gender and whatever, Social Protection and Employment. So our major donors have been the EU, UNDP, UNAIDS, British Council, Canada, and other EU member state governments. So, migration and development. Sometimes people are saying that what is migration and development, or they are asking. What we're trying to say is people view migration as what? A negative thing. Now, if I tell you what is happening in Ghana, all the negative aspect, negative things happening in Ghana, so from Nigerians, Chinese, this, but it's always not the case. Sometimes migrants also spark innovation. I'm sure most the foreigners in this country they brought some kind of work or jobs to our place. So always we're trying to bridge that link, migration and development, what migration can actually bring on board, and also how we can correct the negative tendencies that migration will always bring. And here in Ghana, we've started some projects. We have the Migration for Development in Africa, Ghana Health Project, where we are looking at supporting our health professionals who have gone abroad and don't want to come and settle again in Ghana. We support them to come back home to help in capacity building within the health sector. And this we've achieved so much. And we have the temporary return of qualified nationals.
Sorry, Daniel.
And then we have the all the projects that has been enumerated here, looking at how best we can actually engage their diaspora. I mean, you understand what the diaspora is? You understand what diaspora is? You don't? You do? Well, what's the diaspora? Yeah? Yes, sir.
We are talking about Ghanaians residents outside.
Yes. Ghanaian residents outside who are still holding on to the cultures and the values of the country. Do you understand my point? And now, most governments have identified their diasporas as what? The sixth continent. Because they think they can tap some resources from them for development in their country. So that's why we've installed all these projects so that we can assist in the development back home. And we have labor migration. You hear of people being recruited to this country, coming back and saying that they were trafficked, their papers were seized and all those things. You remember the famous Carter case? So what we also intend doing is to assist the government to facilitate these processes so that we can enter into some kind of bilateral and multilateral agreements with governments so that they will be giving us quota for labor. Maybe Ghanaians can be taken here, go and work in Italy, brought back. I mean, orderly manner where people will not actually be found wanting. So we have actually worked on projects like labor migration for West Africa, which involved about 6 other countries in Africa. And within that project, we had Ghanaians who went to Italy to work. I mean, it's not any formalized work, but just to introduce them to the system. And then they were all brought back. And we've supported the labor department also to come up with information systems. The issue of data management in Ghana, but IOM has supported the department to develop these labor market information systems so that we can use to track what is happening in the labor sector. Policy and research. Currently, we are assisting the government to come up with migration management policy. We're working with the Ministry of Interior, and within Ministry of Interior, we have the migration unit, which IOM supported the government to establish. We've also supported the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to establish the diaspora support unit, also trying to link the diaspora and development in Ghana. We've gone into research. Those of you who are interested to know more or much about migration issues, we've developed the migration profile of the country. Even though it was done in 2009, most of the information are quite relevant for now. Counter-trafficking, the issue of human trafficking. The British would say the trafficking of human beings. Americans would say trafficking in persons. Ghanaians would say human trafficking. Basically the same thing. So we are working in this area to address these issues. We have child trafficking issues in the fiction sector. We have child trafficking in the mining sector. We have child trafficking in the agri sector, the quarry, and all those things. So if you come around and ask us, like Cynthia has been advocating, you can develop stories around this area. And I'm sure if you develop stories around this area and you seek support for this international organization, your work can actually go because they can see that you have some kind of focus and interest. It's a matter of being proactive in developing stories in this area. It's all about morning shows and this media fun thing, but you need also to be proactive in this area. Okay. Assisted voluntary return. I'm sure you'll be interested in this. We are trying to support stranded migrants. Assuming you have a relative abroad who has found himself wanting or who is in some kind of a distress and want to come back home voluntarily, he or she can contact IOM office over there. He or she will meet some requirements and we can bring him back home safely. We pay for the flight, and then sometimes these people even come back home and they get some kind of reintegration support to start life all over again. You know, so you can see that there are a lot of things going on, but maybe you've not been harnessing. We've assisted people from Libya, Sri Lankans, I mean all over. Once the person meets the requirements.
Yeah, is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, as you may be aware. Our mandate is to ensure the right to seek asylum and find safe refuge, to protect refugees, and to promote solutions. So basically that's what we are about. We deal with refugees, we deal with asylum seekers, we deal with returnees, we deal with stateless persons, internally displaced people, and then populations affected by displacement, host communities, and all of that. They are the people we protect. What do we protect them from? From violation of human rights, from persecution, from events seriously disturbing public order. Who protects? We protect. The states or the government is primarily responsible for protection. So over here in Ghana, we work closely with the Ghana Refugee Board. I'm sure most of you know Ghana Refugee Board. We work closely with them. They are our government counterparts. And we work with other partners as well. In Ghana, Peace of God Relief and Development Services, AGRET. We have the National Catholic Secretariat, NCS. We also work with the Christian Council of Ghana, who are all our implementing partners. And then, how do we work? We secure access to persons at risk, identify persons of concern. We ensure protection from return for refugees. I'm trying to explain. For refugees, I will later explain who a refugee is. But basically, there are people who are being pushed out of their country. It's a push factor. There's something that it's to ensure that they are not pushed back from what they are running away from. That's the principle of non-refoulement. That's what it basically means. And then assess protection risks and define responses, and also to establish protection systems. The basic instruments guiding what we do: we have the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees. We have the 1967 Protocol to the Refugee Convention. We also have a regional instrument, that's the OAU Convention on Refugees. Then we have a national instrument, which is the Ghana Refugee Law 1992. One may ask, who is a refugee? I don't know how many of you, if I should ask for lack of time, I would have loved to hear what's your definition of who a refugee is. But basically, a refugee is someone who has been forced to flee his or her country because of persecution, war, violence. A refugee has a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons of race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. Most likely they cannot return home, or they are afraid to do so. And war, ethnic, tribal, religious violence are leading causes of refugees fleeing their countries. So for somebody to qualify to be a refugee, they have to be outside. They have Facebook and Twitter pages. I remember the other
by people who have enough to eat. So bear that in mind. We are a frontline agency mandated to combat global hunger. In a lot of countries, we work in emergency areas. Ghana is one of the countries where we work in development. In development areas, we are trying to make sure that there is food security. That is part of the mandate to end global hunger. So in Ghana, although there isn't an emergency with those thin children looking with their flies all over, looking almost dead, we still have food insecurity in parts of the country. So that's where we are here. Basically, in the feeding of refugees, although the government is all over, because of our mandate, food insecure, that's our target. So that's where we are. Women our main issue. Women guarantee household food security. It is important. We cook the food. When there's no food, the children go hungry. And there's so many other areas. So they are very important to us. We have a program where we give girls in 521 schools in just the northern and Volta regions. We give them an incentive to go to school. Now these schools are in food insecure areas, so the incentive is food. If you go to school for 80% of the month, you are given an incentive. Now what that has done, this is one, it's interesting, I see her smiling. What this has done is that at first we had also the Upper East and Upper West. We wanted to achieve gender parity. That is the same number of boys and girls in schools. They have achieved gender parity. And when there was an evaluation, it was found out that most of the food assistance programs, they encourage girls to go to school. If your father doesn't want you to go to school, but you are guaranteed to bring food home at the end of the month, he is more encouraged to send you to school because it's a sort of payback. And then your mother as well, the household chore, oh, she's bringing food, we need the food, go to school. And then the girl herself, so in the process, the parents got educated, the child got educated, so it was a win-win situation. So we are out of the Upper East and Upper West because they have achieved gender parity. But we are still in the northern region. We are 0.9 something, we are still low, 0.87, we are still low. Part of the Volta regions up there. Also, we don't have enough girls in school. So we are hoping that within the next couple of years, they will be able to attain gender parity. Now, those girls who do well in those schools, we give them a little more incentive. We just help them, give them a little scholarship to go to secondary school. That is a very small program, but it's an incentive for them to excel in the BEC. So we encourage them to continue to secondary school. There's another project that we have. It's called Purchase for Progress, and that is for smallholder farmers. Over the years, the World Food Program, initially when we started, we were bringing food into countries where we worked, and then we stopped that. So we started buying locally in the countries. And now, instead of just buying from a large food supplier, we want to work with the smallholder farmers because they are some of the most food insecure people in the country, in almost all developing countries. So we are trying to improve their lives, not just buying food in Ghana, but improve their lives so that they become more food insecure. So right now, UN angle, and not just from the World Food Program. At the beginning of this year, sometime last year, the UN decided to focus on nutrition as a theme for the entire UN. And so all the agencies have sort of come together to do as much as possible for the UN, for nutrition. In the World Food Program, what we are doing is providing food, nutritious food, to children 0 to 5 and pregnant and nursing mothers. One of the reasons why we are still doing that is because of the nutrition indicators in Ghana. Stunting, most of you know, yes, too short for your height, but also it also means that your brain is not well developed. In Ghana, we still have a problem. If 23% of our children 0 to 5 are stunted, it means their brains are not well developed. Now what does that mean? You guys can say the white man, he has white dudu or something, he's more intelligent. No. All these are reasons why we are not as sharp as we should be. 23%, 1 in 4 children is too much. It's way too much. That is why the UN as a team has come together to try and focus on nutrition in the country. If you look in the the northern region, that is ridiculous, 37.4 of children. What will that do to the future generation? You yourselves can decide. Upper East region, 31.5 is also very high. And then, so that is all very high. So you can, that for me, at the end of it, that will be my plea. That more of you take interest in nutrition. It is a national issue. The government is doing quite a bit. They have gone into scaling up nutrition, which is a movement that those of us who have bad nutrition indicators are joining. Ghana is one of the countries. In the UN, we have a REACH, and the REACH consists of WFP, UNICEF, FAO, WHO, and IFAD. We are all trying together to make sure that all our nutrition programs are well linked, and so we can have a very important effect and try and pick up as many children as possible out of the malnutrition gap. Now this is something that we have been trumpeting. Almost all the people who speak about nutrition have been trumpeting in the country. And I will hope and pray that you also do that. We were very disappointed when there was no award won focusing on this critical window of opportunity. The first 1,000 days, which means for conception, the 9 months, 270 days, up to the second birthday, that is 730. It is the critical window of opportunity to make sure that your child is well nourished. This grows, physically grows. Stunting cannot be addressed. You can prevent it, but you can't do anything about it later on. If your brain is stunted by that age group, that's it for life. So it is important, and I hope that henceforth, some of you will take interest in it. I think it's a very serious national issue.
Vera.